Okay. Hey guys.
Hi.
So we were talking a little bit. We did a video. We kind of started talking about balance, but it turned into fitting in, but also balance within ourselves. Just kind of how much we seek outwardly versus, like literally, I might have to put a wall up from every time we press play. She jumps
really
up.
wants
She
to be
wants
involved.
to be a part of this. My dog is here yet again. So we started talking about balance in a little bit different way. But one of the things that I experienced this week, and something that I've thought about and we've talked about many times before, is the balance of the masculine and feminine, not only within the marriage, which is much unbalanced right now.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like I think there's a lot of pain that's coming because there's this major imbalance of masculine and feminine within marriages right now.
Yeah.
But the masculine and feminine within ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that, like for me this week, Craig is very masculine, masculine oriented, and the feminine part of himself is very weak. He's not in balance with that.
Same with my husband.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's fairly normal.
Yeah.
In the sense of that's kind of how society has it. Because, men, when they're in touch with their feminine side or their vulnerable side, it's like, oh, you're weak, you're,
right.
You're a coward, this and that. So they don't usually want to express that side, and they haven't really tapped into it.
Well, right. I mean, and especially when our society already values very masculine traits.
Exactly.
Right? So masculine traits being logic, action, step-by-step process, organized, planning, like strength, kind of like assertiveness.
Even physical strength.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's really valued in our society, whereas the feminine traits, I don't think feminism really
touches on what really femininity or feminism is.
Right, exactly.
They kind of missed the boat with that a little bit.
Yeah, they overlay a masculine definition.
Yes.
And it's basically like be masculine, but do it in your woman body.
Right, which is, I think that's not really what God meant by that. Yeah.
I'm feeling like we're on the wrong track.
Yeah.
So, so the feminine traits I would say are intuition, flexibility, wisdom, flow, being in flow, which is flexibility. And it's amazing how our own bodies, the masculine and the feminine bodies, actually exemplify physically all the things, all the characteristics of the masculine and feminine. So not only is it outwardly seen for us, but
it's go ahead.
And inwardly we have to have that balance as well, because we have the masculine and feminine, the yin and the yang in us as well. So
as do the men.
Yeah, and they do too, right?
And so trying to even just figure out that masculine part in ourselves too is always difficult for me.
Yeah.
So because I'm always very emotional, very reactive, all of that, and just instead of being like really logical. And, looking at my husband, sometimes he'll be so logical that I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Can't you be a little more sensitive? And it's just, but I need that because I am completely sensitive.
Right.
And we need that balance. It's just that beautiful balance we talked about.
Yeah. And that showed up for me this week. Yeah. Because I got super emotional just about a space in my home. Yeah. So I do care about taking care of my home, and I like it to feel beautiful and nice. Yeah. And so my husband doesn't care about that. Yeah. He doesn't care about that at all. Right. But our closet became outrageous, and this house does not have any storage. Yeah. So this seems like kind of a silly subject, but
it ties in with balance, which is really nice.
Exactly. So it was getting outrageous. Like I couldn't even walk in there without feeling like, I hate it. I hate it in here, right? Yeah. So I wanted to solve the problem. Right. There was no flow to it. It was all just stuff crammed everywhere. Yeah. So I was like, this issue needs to be solved. Yeah. Now my husband wants to take it slow and logical, kind of finding the most economical way to solve it. And
Which is very male-like, it seems like. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think we all experience that with our husbands, right?
Yeah.
And I was wanting like the most convenient way and the quickest way. Like, okay, I've identified the problem.
Right.
Let's just solve it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to sit here and wait for you.
No.
But what transpired is I called a custom closet company. He freaked out, like, we don't have the money to do this.
Yeah.
And I was immediately like, you don't value what I value.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, you're putting your money and your attachment to money is more important than what I need.
What I need, yeah. And what I want. Yeah.
But the reality is I didn't really know what I needed because what happened through the weekend is I decided, you know what, that is stupid. I'm not going to call a custom closet company. Like, we can buy a closet and put it together in our, go to Home Depot and do this, right?
Yeah.
So I find something that's like slightly cheaper than a custom closet that we would have to do ourselves, a DIY project.
Yeah.
And I call him in and I show him, like, hey, what about this? I'm just ready to pull the trigger, right? Again, I see the problem. I want to solve it.
Right.
So that I can be in flow again.
Yeah.
That I can kind of be
Exactly. This feels like a real big roadblock here.
Exactly.
And he's not allowing it to flow, and he's putting all these brakes on it. And you're just like, no, I need it to flow, and this is how I see it flowing. And he's just like, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah.
Maybe it can look a little different.
Yeah. So, right. And I'm understanding intuitively, listen, this space is more about just a cramped space. This space has to do with our moods. This space has to do with our freedom and again, flow of like how we're going through life. We visit this space every day.
Right.
So I have that intuitive kind of wisdom about it. Like this is more important than you are aware of.
It's not just the physical closet.
Right.
It's just, it means a lot more than that.
Exactly. And so I think as women, we often understand that in our homes. This means a lot more than just like, okay, I'm going to buy this piece of furniture or whatever.
Right.
There's a
that's
piece.
So funny you say that, because that's exactly how I'm like, but I see a bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's always the bigger picture. And my husband's like, well, how much is it? It's, again, it's just that very, not authoritative in a negative way, but just, I see it he just sees it very differently than I do. And so it's like having to balance those two.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, and I think when we don't tell women that is a valuable insight that you have and you need to fight for it, then we don't.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And I know plenty of women who will come to my home and look at my home and say, oh, like, how did you get your husband to agree to this? And like, because I fought for it because I knew how important it was.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And not to like toot my own horn, but it's just something I have valued and understood that the way you create your home is really important. And what happened through the process of our marriage is that I fought and I made it happen. And then he realized, oh, wow, this does make a difference.
Right.
I do like this. It makes me feel comfortable and secure.
Right.
When you create an environment that is nice.
Yes.
But I think many of us as women don't fight for that.
No, and for me, this is coming in, being such a people pleaser that, I would see something and it might be pretty expensive, but I see it as like, this would be a beautiful addition to the house, or it would be another thing that would kind of help flow, that if, I would get anxious talking to my husband about it, because it was like, oh, he's not going to agree and it's not what he wants. And so I would stop myself. I'd almost silence myself. Yeah. And then I would get upset with him later that it was his fault. Right. And it was, I never really understood that that's really what I was doing. Yeah. But that we need to value our side of it and our opinion about it. And there's nothing wrong if he disagrees. Right. That it's just another opportunity for you two to come together and really work through it and to balance the masculine, feminine. I love that. Because I think a lot of us stop and don't fight for it too more, right? Because the masculine is more aggressive. Yeah. And we don't really have evidence to support. It's like we just have this knowingness and this vision and this intuition. Like, no, this is going to make it better. Yeah. Like it really is. Right. I know that like on paper, it doesn't look like it would be worth it, but I'm telling you, the spiritual benefits, the emotional benefits, it's going to make a difference. Right. So we stop ourselves from pushing through that to have that conversation to convince. Right. Yeah, it's very uncomfortable because if you don't really have your voice, because I just never felt like I had my voice. And it's not as if my husband was an overbearing guy. It's really not at all. It's just really my issues. My issues from childhood that I was always just afraid to speak up because I didn't value myself.
But I think it's a feminine issue in general. I think
for sure.
We're just not normally aggressive.
And we're not used to having that... I was just saying combative, but that's not really it. It's that pushback,
right?
For me, it was just like, oh no, but and then I second guess.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't get that.
Right, exactly.
But then it's like, oh well, but I saw this whatever.
Yeah.
The bigger picture. And so when he would come and say, no, we can't have that, then I'd second guess.
Right.
And I think you're right. That's just kind of a feminine thing. We're always taught to just be, sit there and be pretty.
Yeah.
Don't rock the boat, And when we do speak up, at least for me, it was always very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Even with my own husband.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just those roles we have.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fighting through to help him understand that there's value.
Yeah.
In that intuitive wisdom that you have,
and we have to teach them that.
It is our job.
They don't know
to push through the uncomfortableness.
And even me, I didn't know. So it's kind of, we're learning together, but having to be safe enough within myself to be able to express that to him, and me feeling safe enough with him for him to understand that no, just hear me out. Let's talk through this. It's not an argument.
Right.
I'll hear your side, you hear my side. We have to be able to respect one another.
Exactly. And I think so many of us stop the conversation. And here's what I got caught doing, right, this weekend with the whole closet situation is I had an idea of how to solve the problem.
Right.
It was very easy, convenient, but it cost a lot of money.
Right.
It wouldn't really have been convenient, right?
Yeah.
like somebody coming in and destroying your
exactly
closet.
Right.
Convenient.
You have to take everything out.
But I didn't have to think. And it wasn't I didn't have to problem solve. I didn't have to figure everything out.
Right.
It's like I was going to hire someone to figure it out for me.
Yeah, it's easy.
So then it was like, no, okay, but I will get this pre-made closet. Craig can do it. And then we'll solve it.
Yeah.
And he came and I said, what do you think of this? And he was like, is that really going to solve our problem? And I was like, well, it's just pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't like what's currently in there, so yes, and it's pretty.
Right.
So it'll solve our problem.
Right.
So then he starts being a part of the trying to solve it. And it's
a partnership.
In the moment he started doing that, I was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
This is what I needed. I needed you to come here to acknowledge that I have an issue with this.
Yeah.
That it's worth solving, and that we can solve it together.
We can do it together.
And you have a value of money, and I have a value of beauty.
Yeah.
And like an efficient use of.
And,
you have a value of an efficient use of space. Right. I have a value of making it flow. And so when we came together and respected, instead of me being like, you don't
value me.
Exactly.
You don't respect
want
my
what
opinion.
I want.
Yeah.
It's so easy for us to go there.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And when I was able to step back and be like, okay, what is he saying to me?
Yeah, right.
Can I accept it?
Right.
Like he's trying to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And it's probably okay the way that he's offering.
Right.
But it's like going against what I originally
exactly.
thought. So
right.
there was a battle within me.
Yeah.
But when the project was done, and it was literally just like putting up a shelf and buying a different shoe organizer.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like I walked in my closet and I was like, I got everything I wanted.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It flows. And it was $100.
Wow.
And what was even more beautiful about it was he came and he solved this problem with me.
And you did it together.
And we did it together, and that was so rewarding. Like valuing what each of us brought to the table. Because it's so different. He brings something completely different than what I bring.
Right.
But when we respect what each brings and say, yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
Yes, that is needed.
Yeah.
We do need to kind of be frugal with it. You don't have to like go out and spend this much money.
Right.
And he says, yeah, flow is important. And you to be able to come in here and access everything easily, that's important.
So what do you think changed for you to be at that moment this weekend? Like, how did you get to that point?
Well, I think I was grumpy about it.
Yeah.
Like but his logic, where he was like, is this really going to solve? And then we brought the tape measure out and we did some stuff and actually looked at it logically step by step. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
It doesn't solve it.
Well, and so what I was asking,
The real question.
like, how did you guys get, because this is popping in for me as you were talking, is that, you know, after 16 years of marriage, how were you able to see that you need to kind of step back and listen to him and allow him to have his voice as well as yours and come together? Like, did something change in your marriage? Did something change in you? Like, how does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I'm thinking that for myself, like, here we are having these realizations about our spouses that we've been with them for so long. I mean, I've been with my husband for 18 years, but we've been married about 16. So I've had this whole new realization of finding my voice and being able to work together. And, you know, it's a work in progress, but what brought you to that point?
It was always observing yourself, I think.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, again, the tension. I want this so bad.
Right.
I want this so bad.
Right.
And I gotta have it in the way that I imagined it.
Right.
And so when I notice that it's bringing me tension, and when I want it so bad, it's like, hold loosely.
Like, wait a second.
I have to step back and be like, why does it have to be this way?
Right.
Why can't you listen to him and see what he offers?
Right.
And I still struggled. I mean, like when he suggested the shelf,
I
was like, that's
You're
not
still holding
pretty.
on to the, this is the way I want it. Yeah.
But it was like, I'm holding on tightly to this.
Yeah.
I'm so holding on tightly.
Yeah.
So what?
Why?
Why do I need it this way?
I know. Yeah.
He's here.
Right.
He's wanting
it's just
to work
such a pattern
on this.
that we have.
It is.
It's just holding on to those feelings and thoughts, experiences that we think are going to bring us joy. And we came up with it. I have to do this my way, and not understanding that no, there's a whole another way to look at this.
Yeah.
And
when you invite that in, and that's been such a hard thing for me, because I feel like I am good at organizing my house.
Right.
I feel like I'm good at creating a nice environment, and so then I want him to step in,
right?
But then
when he doesn't do it your way,
you're
like,
exactly.
wait, no, I want it my way, and you're like, okay, wait, I'm missing something here.
Yeah, and so to choose the working together, over the my way,
exactly. And that's what marriage is.
Yeah.
I mean, and for me, like I just didn't really know that.
Yeah.
And really having to learn myself, how to work on myself, is now enabling me to work with my husband.
Yeah.
And being able to see that, like observing and stopping myself and be like, ooh, I really got caught up in that, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'm really attached to that thought, that feeling, whatever.
Right.
And that's so funny because this is just popping in. Are you done?
Yeah,
Okay.
Go.
Because this kind of ties in with marriage. So last night it was funny. Again, you guys know about my issue with food. So I was really hungry last night and I really wanted this specific food that I was making. And my husband came over. He had already had his meal. And I was heating up mine because I had already made everything for everybody else. I was trying to, feed everybody else. And I was waiting to eat myself, and he went over and took a bite of my meal that I had perfectly portioned out. And I got so mad, and I was like, what are you doing? And then 2 seconds later, my daughter says, Mom, can I have a bite of your food too? And I was just like, why is everybody eating my food?
Right.
What is going on here? And it was so funny because in the moment I was still upset, but actually in the back of my mind, I also knew this is so important for me because my attachment.
Yeah.
It was my attachment to the food that I had laid out. I knew exactly what the portion was. This is going to keep me in line, blah, 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 and then he stepped in and took a bite, and my daughter wanted a bite. And I was like, boy, this is just throwing all that out the window.
Yeah.
Like, stop attaching to the food. It's not about the food. And they're showing you your attachment.
Exactly.
And I was so upset.
Yes.
That I was just like, ooh. And then later on, I was like, I had to step back and go, okay, what's really going on here. I mean, it was really funny for me.
Yeah. No,
because
absolutely. Yes.
I'm so attached
It's
to
like
it.
those intense feelings
Yes.
show you your attachment.
Yes.
And it's like,
and my poor husband's just like, dude, calm down. Like,
Yeah.
I just took a bite. And I was like, I know, but it was mine. And I was like, whoa, it's not mine. What am I doing?
yeah, right.
It's just food,
Yeah.
you know?
But you
So-
have so much baggage
Yes.
attached to food.
Yes.
I have so much baggage about fighting for my voice, getting my way. You're not going to disrespect
Right.
me. I'm
Right.
going to fight
Oh,
for this.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa,
What are we
you're
doing?
missing the
Yeah,
gift.
totally.
You're missing
Yes.
the gift in this moment.
Yeah.
Which is to connect with someone and work together. And I don't know, what's the gift with the food?
Well, my gift was just the attachment and not blaming. Like, I was blaming him. I was blaming her. Like, you're taking my food from me.
Right.
You know, it's just like, no. And and before I would have really like been upset with my husband.
Yeah.
Because it was his fault.
Yeah,
Right? Like
right.
constantly blaming, constantly pushing it out like it's his fault. He should know
Yes.
that's my food. He's not supposed to eat my food. It's like, he can't be any of those things.
Right.
Why am I doing that to my poor husband?
Yeah.
And my child? But unless I was able to sit and observe that, I wouldn't have known.
Well, I mean, and again, it's that aspect of sharing.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
an intimate thing
Yes.
to come have a bite of your food. And your
Right.
daughter's looking for that intimacy
Yes.
too.
Oh, well, that's
especially
great.
when
Yeah.
they know how much you value it.
Yes. And I eat different food than my family.
Your family.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and
interesting.
it's like, it's a way to be a part of
Yeah.
you. It's a way to be
Right.
a part of what you're doing.
Right. And what did I do? I took it offensively.
Yeah. Exactly.
I took it as you're doing something to me.
Yeah, you're
where
taking
the
something
whole
away
yeah,
from me.
exactly. Where all the while it was just another opportunity for me to be close with them.
Yeah. And be
It's so
intimate
beautiful.
and to share.
I just love that.
And so what are you holding on tightly
Yeah.
to?
Yeah.
That is robbing you from a moment of sharing,
Yeah.
of
And
intimacy,
connecting.
yeah, and of being in balance
Yep.
with your husband and letting both personalities come together, both tendencies, the masculine and the feminine tendency, come together and create something
Yeah.
beautiful and simple and easy.
Yeah.
So good,
We just
so hard.
We miss it so much, and that's the
So
hard
much.
part is just really seeing the beautiful gift.
Yeah,
It's just we're so stuck in our ways and having to really reverse all that and peel it away, right? Like an onion, you've got to peel all the little layers away to see
Yeah.
see the core.
Yeah.
And then the core, that gift is just like, oh, I missed it all along.
Exactly.
You know?
And if there's a lot of emotion around it, if there's a lot of intensity
Oh,
around
yeah.
it,
Then you know.
that is an indication.
Then you know, well, you're kind of missing the gift
Yeah,
here,
and you might
so
be
what are you
missing, and it might be time to let go. So,
Yeah, for sure.
anyway,
Yeah.
I hope you find those
Yeah.
creative moments, those times to really meet the people in your lives
Yeah.
and share the intimacy rather than hold on to what you think should be happening. So,
For sure.
you know, it's
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah,
All right.
good stuff. Love
Okay.
it. All right.